Welcome back to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. This is ExtraTyne. I'm your host, Jess, and I'm joined by my co-host, Laura.
Hello.
Hello, how's it going, Laura?
All right, thanks.
Good, good. I'm also joined this week by Rob, a bit of a legend on ExtraTyne, following his debut appearance. How's it going?
Not too bad. I just would like an episode without Keegan McLean in it, so I'll be happy with it.
He hasn't been mentioned yet, but there's plenty of time. And we're also joined this week by the lovely Adam. How's it going, Adam?
It's good. This is slightly awkward, because I was only lured on under promise of Jamie McLean, so someone's got to give you in the middle.
Oh, you liar. I'm sure, I mean, we've got plenty to get through. I'm sure we can get him in at some point. Like, we'll manage to slot it in somewhere. Right, so let's get the badness out of the way first. We played Chelsea on Monday. We lost. I'm not going to lie, there's not much I can remember from it again. And it's not because I was drinking. I didn't have a drink. I was drinking tea. It's because I've repressed it. I don't want to know. It was awful. I ended up playing bloody shooting foam discs and running around playing like with these little Nerf gun things instead. It was awful. It was to be expected, but it was awful. Laura, take the lead.
Do I have to? I'm trying really hard not to just dwell on all the negatives, because there was a lot of them. I don't know where this whole we were better the second half came into it, because I don't know what I was watching. I also wasn't drinking, so I was sober. I didn't see a positive second half. I didn't see a positive anything. I mean, when the team came out, I was quite happy. It was quite attacking minded. It was better than I thought. Gail up front. Yeah. And then the whistle went and he wasn't up front, and he was like just up and down the right side. I'm not too sure what the point of that was. But my only thing is just, and don't know however many people agree with us. I know we were talking about it before, but St. Maximin just me head in.
Yeah. I'm completely on your side here, Laura.
I mean, he's not going to get through three men. So why are you trying to get through three men? Just pick out a black and white shirt and pass through it. Like, get it in the box. Like, he tried to get it in the box, but through three grown men. And yes, he might get away with that against the smaller teams or the worst teams. But against Chelsea, they've done their research. They're going to stop him. They've got a plan. And he's our best player. We've made it very, very clear. Bruce mentions it every time. They're going to stop him. So he performs well against the smaller teams. And then my personal opinion is, I think I could be wrong, it's just my opinion, but against the bigger teams, when he's not as good as them, he spits his dummy out and he can't be arsed, and his attitude goes and his head goes, and it's just so frustrating. And the second half, I stopped even making notes, and all I wrote is, where's the consistency? I know there had to be changes because of the injuries, but why can't the plan be the same? Why can't we just go out and have two games where we just win? Like, why?
I know, obviously, you've got to, he has to take into account what's happening there and then, but it feels like, in terms of players and tactics and stuff, he puts everything in a bingo machine and just thingies it round and like, right, we'll do that a day. But with the thing with, as you were saying, with St. Maximin, obviously he took St. Maximin off after like 70 minutes or whatever, and he brought on Fraser, which was, I mean, Twitter just kind of went up, because he's been saying for a long, long time now that he wants to play them together, but he's never had the chance and he's not been able to. Adam, how frustrating was it when he could have taken off anyone for Fraser, but he took off St. Maximin? How frustrating was that?
I get what you're saying, and don't get me wrong, I completely agree with the point. I do think at the minute we are sort of having to remember that St. Maximin's come back from a long-term injury. I probably doesn't want to play fully 90 minutes yet, but don't get me wrong, there's been countless other opportunities this season, and there will be, like, as the games go on. I've got no doubt in my mind that they won't end up playing together against Man United. The St. Maximin thing's so crazy, because for a man of that ability to be a confidence player is so wrong. Like, someone like Almiron should be a confidence player. That you've really got to get their energy up. You've got to get their enthusiasm up. You've got to get them to get the ball to bounce them in the first couple of minutes in order for them to have a good game. So Maximin can make things happen all by himself. And yet when he comes up against fullbacks who have got a bit of a read on him, or like you say, Laura, who've got him scouted, who do double up on him, as soon as things don't start going his way, he doesn't, I hesitate to say he takes the huff, but he seems to sort of like not want to get on the ball as much, and he stops looking for it as much. And in games where he can, single-handedly be a difference maker, it's just as easy for him to go past, Azpilicueta as it is for him to go past, who's Burnley's right back? Christopher Warburton, or some like typical Burnley name, right? He can do it. He can be the difference against any team. But when it's not going for him, when he's really got to work for it, it just never seems to happen. And I don't know what the solution is. Like, you need to keep him happy and you need to get him wanting to do stuff. But if, there are going to be games where he's going to have to wait for his chance, and he's going to have to, try and fail and try again. But like, you saw it against Chelsea, like 3 of them come up against him. The ball goes out of play and he just throws his arms up. And he's like, where's my support? Where's my teammate? Why am I not getting this decision? It's like, all right, well, it doesn't happen. Get up, try it again. Like, it'll work eventually.
I think part of me was wondering, like, is it maybe like an ego thing? Like,
I think it is to an extent. Yeah. Like, he wants to be the main man, and he wants things to go well for him, but it's not going to happen all the time, which is why I think, as you point out, against lesser teams, where every time he gets the ball, he does skin 2 or 3 of them. He looks like he's having the time of his life. But against teams where, like, it might take him a couple of goes, he just doesn't seem to have the stomach for it, which is really disappointing because he's so good.
That's it. That's exactly it. Speaking of egos, Steve Bruce was laughing at the end of the game, which again was incredibly annoying. Rob, do you think the laughter is masking the fact that he knows he's like a defeated man? Like,
the way he's a lucky man, I tell you that. Like, he's one of them. He's so fortunate that it's locked down and there's no fans in that stadium. Like,
100%,
in a home games would be toxic. There would be hell on every week for the football he plays, and like, it just doesn't help when we're all depressed. We're all the football we have to watch every week, winning 1 every 10 or 12 games, and then like, just to see the way he goes on, it's like I know he cares, but he just comes across like it's just not that big a deal, and we'll win the next one or whatever. But I'd say the fact that all of us last night were glued to Burnley Fulham, hoping for a result went our way, just sums up exactly where we are. Like, it's just, and it doesn't help the way he goes on, really.
I think just on that point, the Chelsea game is pretty much like, if you want a really good example of where we are at the minute, like, I've watched Fulham pretty much all season on and off, and the results have been absolutely diabolical, but you come away from most Fulham games, even where they get beat, thinking, do you know what, it's a canny little team there, or they were maybe a bit unlucky this time, or, they just needed something to go right for them. Whereas, like, we've spent all this season, even when the results were going well, got away with that one, or I don't know how we've won that game. Like, even while Robbie Savage is on score going, but they're 12th, Fletch. Are they not 12th, Fletch? I don't know what they're playing without Fletch. They're really 12th, Fletch. And we're going, but the results are all right, but the performances have been terrible. Fulham have been the exact opposite. And we turned up against Chelsea just not asked. And like, the energy wasn't there. We didn't look like a team who should be worried. Whereas Fulham have played every game, like, their life depends on it. Like,
they're fighting for it, aren't they?
Yeah, they beat Everton 2-0. And honestly, Everton were lucky it wasn't 3 or 4. Like, they finally look like things are starting to click for them. And I've seen people on Twitter being like, aye, it's bad enough, but, it's only Fulham. They're not going to win all of these games in hand. And it's like, is that what we've got? Is that's what's going to keep us up? Arrogance.
The gap's closing very quickly. I mean, it was maybe last week or the week before when people were like, it's 10 points, don't worry about it. I think we're down to 6 now, and they've got a game before.
They've got Sheffield United next.
Yes, and they've got Sheffield United next, which is before we play. So by the time we play on Sunday night, the gap could be down to 3 points, and we're being told not to worry. I mean,
there is some saving grace in this. Like, Fulham have got a good run at the minute, while we've got a tough run. Yeah, I fully expect this gap to be down to a point or 2 by the end of this. But after that, Fulham have got an absolutely hellish run.
Awful March.
But that doesn't matter if they're playing well and we're not, because even if that run's tough, they'll beat somebody, they'll catch somebody out, they'll outplay somebody, they'll have a bit more application than somebody, they'll pick up a couple of points here and there. And if we're like just sitting there going, we're just going to wait for Wilson to get back, and then we'll stay up, we'll be behind them by that point.
That's it. I think it's sad that well, it's sad at any point of the season to be relying on results around us. And I know with Laura, we've spoke about it in the group chat, and like I think it was last night they were saying there was like a few of the lads were saying they're still confident and like they still think that it's down to us. But I think given the way that we went out on Monday and given the way that the likes of Fulham and them are going out now, I think our fate is unfortunately not in our hands anymore. I think
I said in the group chat that I didn't want to keep watching Fulham's results because it's only February. So I was very much so it is in our hands. And I think purely from my mental state, I can't go till whenever the season ends. Don't even know. I can't be watching Fulham's results.
Honestly, we didn't imagine this. We're getting told like that we're going to push for the top half this season, and genuinely, we're sitting here in February going, "Well, it's in our hands, though. Staying up, like right now, mathematically, it's still in our hands."
Yeah, even though the gap's been closed by 4 points in the last week, but it's still in our hands.
I think we're putting the absolutely positive head on, though. I think the one little positive is we're not. It always seems to be us, well, because I'm not going to be ego here, because we're like a slightly bigger team, but the pundits always seem to talk about us and Fulham catching us, but the Burnleys, the Brightons, the Palaces, they're not far away as well.
Yeah.
So I think it is good that when we are like obviously hoping Fulham don't pick up points, but there's other teams around where that are more.
You made a massive statement, didn't you, on Twitter earlier about?
Oh, it was you. Yeah.
Him. He said
Palace will go down. Yeah.
You know what? I was just about to say, I saw someone on Twitter today say the Palace were going to go down, and it was you.
I can't believe this has made it on here. I'm going to get absolutely slaughtered.
Well, no, we'll get you.
The only reason I'm thinking is just because obviously they're a bit like us without we're focused without Wilson, but I don't know how Zaha's long as he out for, but they cannot win a game when he doesn't play. And they play Fulham as well. I think is it next weekend? So that'll be an interesting one.
I honestly would not be surprised because we've got Fulham in the last game. Is that right? I would not be surprised.
Oh, I didn't know that. Last game of the season's Fulham.
Yeah.
I can't hack this. I can't hack this.
Adam's off. He's
gone.
I would not be surprised if we're all sat absolutely shitting ourselves in that game because it's come down to that. Like that's where I'm at the minute. I think that's what it might come down to.
But I think as well, just to end, like Scott Parker did it. I read something on Twitter. He must have been asked about Newcastle, and don't quote as I wish I'd write it down, but he addressed it and he was very honest about it. And he was like, "Yeah, we're going to bring it. We're in a relegation fight. We're going to bring it and we're going to go." Whereas if you look to Steve Bruce, I think if he was asked that same question, he'd brush it off with some stupid cliche and just ignore it.
No mistake, we're going to give it a good go. We're going to give it a right good go to stay up. We are.
Literally,
God. It's not going to be easy. Obviously, they're all good teams down at that end of the table, but we'll give it. We're going to have to roll with sleeves up. I've been in this job a long time. Scott Parker's like, I'll chin him, bring him here, I'll fight him.
Well, I hope he does. No, I'm joking. I don't
hey, look, we've got nothing to worry about when it comes to Fulham. It's not like both their manager and their centre forward was sold by this exact club for not being good enough. There's nothing could possibly come back to bite us in the arse this season. Don't worry about it.
Scott Parker lifted the Intertoto Cup for us, man. He's loyal to us until the Total Cup, man. He's doing more favour.
I feel it might be written in the stars already. I think. Right, enough about the now. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't think anyone wants to. On Sunday it was Valentine's Day, but more importantly, it was Kevin Keegan's 70th birthday. There's been celebrations all over. There was an amazing article in The Athletic with which Alan Shearer wrote.
That was great. That was brilliant.
If you've not read it, get the free trial on The Athletic. I think you get 7 days or whatever. It's worth it. It's absolutely brilliant. It was just. I mean, there were parts when it was like a little bit sad, and they were talking about like the now and like the Mike Ashley and stuff like that. But it was just like two friends having a chat, and it was brilliant. So, in honour of King Kev, we decided that we're going to talk about our favourite stories, memories, things to do with Kevin Keegan. As ever, we went out on Twitter and we had an amazing response. So we've got plenty to talk through. But I'll come round to you lot first. Laura, do you want to give us 1, 2, 3, however many you want of your favourite Keegan memories or stories?
Well, I know I normally have like a million things and I normally take over at this point, but I've only got 2. But like my favourite ever, like Keegan is the one that made me love Newcastle. He was in charge when, and I know a lot of people have said it on Twitter, but he was the one where I would go to Maiden Castle and watch them train, and it was just like amazing. I think I was about 8, and they were just so friendly and approachable, but at the same time they were like these massive Newcastle United players, and I was just in awe of them. And Keegan was just so friendly, and he stood for what felt like hours talking and signing autographs. And eventually, like, my favourite day was when he was stood for ages just signing, and I was like, can I have your autograph please? And he was like, yes. And he called us polite, and I was like so excited that Keegan had said I was polite. And then eventually he stopped, and he was like, can someone go and get me car, because I've been playing head tennis with Terry McDermott for about an hour and I'm knackered, but I still want to sign autographs. So he made someone go and get his car, and I put the photo on Twitter on his birthday of him just sat in the car with all us around him, just signing autographs. But again, that was like, it brought from the interview as well that he did with Shearer, of just how in touch with the fans they were back then, and how like nice it was, and how different it is now. And I feel really sorry for the children now. Like, obviously I'm a teacher, I work with children all the time, and they don't seem to know any Newcastle players because they haven't got, and I don't blame them at all, because obviously times have changed, but it was just so nice back then that we could just go and chat to them and feel like what we were like, it was them, and it was just really nice. They were like
megastars, but they were like tangible as well. Do you know what I mean? Laura, was it? I'm sure it was you actually who said that you'd asked some of the kids in your class like about their favourite footballers or whatever, and what the response.
Yeah, like I always talk to the lads about like football, because a lot of them play in for local clubs and stuff. And I was just asking them about their favourite Newcastle player, and they didn't know a single Newcastle player. They were just like, oh, De Bruyne, Aguero, Pogba, Rashford. They couldn't name me. There was only one kid in my class, and he could tell us Newcastle, but all the other boys in the class just didn't know a single Newcastle player, and I just thought it was really sad.
Yeah, that's mental. When you think back to like I know we're like similar age. Like when you think back to when we were at school, and like the lads were playing, and they were pretending to be Shearer, and do you know what I mean? Like, and now that it's completely different. Adam, I'll come to you now. What's your favourite story, memory, fact, thing, whatever you like about Keegan?
Oh, the greatest Keegan memory by an absolute country mile is when the Honey Monster when he did the Sugar Puffs advert in Newcastle, won a trophy at Wembley.
Oh my god! You know what? No one said that, and I'd forgotten about that as well. But
genuinely, but this is the thing, right? I'm joking there, right? But if you got to remember, can you imagine now? Like a major breakfast hero going, right, we want to do a football advert. We want to put our monster in the football kit of a recognisable, like we want them to be like the biggest football thing going. And they went with Keegan and they went with Newcastle. Yeah. Like, can you imagine now, please, Special K, like getting Jeff Hendrick and Steve Bruce to do a skit? Like, it was another time. Like, everybody in the country were more likely to buy Sugar Puffs because the Honey Monster was playing for Newcastle and playing for Kevin Keegan. And like, it sounds like a daft thing to compare now, but it's just like, that's where we were. Like, we were the club that you could go to for that kind of thing.
I think we talk about, like, we seem to touch on this every week, but like from a different aspect, like whether we're talking about like players or managers, or like we've talked about goal celebrations and stuff like that. But we always say, like, the things that have happened in the past, you just can't, like, you don't associate that with the club that we are now. Like all the stories that came in about Keegan, when we were talking about the goal celebrations and favourite games and things like that, and they were talking about like the 5-0 and stuff. It is another world away. Like, it's mental to think that once upon a time was us, and it's really sad to think that in the next, well, however long, I don't think we'll get there again, sadly. But
this is the tragic thing about this, right? And this is my ultimate 4-pint-in hot take I've got about Keegan. I think if you look at his 3 stints at the club, I honestly don't think any of them have done as much for his reputation as both a man and like a man in football as his 3rd stint at the club. like obviously coming here towards the end of his playing career, we were sort of in the second division at the time, and obviously we had ambitions, and Keegan was on the way down. It was kind of a good fit, even though it was like a very random transfer at the time. It was a good fit, and obviously when he came here as a manager, he was largely unproved, like in the business. He'd never managed a club before, but he was still a big name, and we were this like ambitious but ultimately flawed project. And it was a good fit then. But like, they made sense then. There were like two. Like for various different reasons, the club and the man were in the same sort of position at the time. Whereas the third time he came here, like the way it all ended and how much it exposed the regime and how the bonds with Ashley have never been replaced since. Like Keegan coming in was the very last time, that third stint he had at the club, that was the last time as a fan base we were kind of sort of united in optimism. Like, we didn't really know what we let ourselves in for. We just had this new owner come in who was supposedly one of the richest men in the country, and he brought Keegan back. And yeah, all right, we weren't talking about getting in the top four, but like, we knew we were going to enjoy ourselves, and this all seemed like everything was going to be great. And every day since then, it's been this like diminished expectation. It's been, accepting second place. It's been sell to buy. It's been pound for pound the best club it can be. And honestly, like, I think if you sort of look back at that third stint at the club he had, like, we'll never ever appreciate for exactly what we had before Ashley came in quite like we can with that comparison, because it always goes back to him saying, with the arbitration thing, the unfair dismissal, the constructive dismissal, Dennis Wise, Nacho Gonzalez, all of it, like that really earmarked like where we are and where we have been for the last sort of 10, 12 years. It's crazy. Like, nothing's done his reputation more as a person, more than like the fact that he was the last person to come in.
It's crazy to think how long ago that was, and how near the start of the whole Ashley thing that was, and how he called it out, but we never and how come so long's past and we're still in that position? Do you know? It's just.
I always keep thinking about the takeover, like the way it was. Like, fair enough, if they want to have an owner directors test in place and like the prospective buyers from last year don't meet that, that's fine. But I always wonder, like, where was it like during the arbitration panel?
Like,
what I mean? Why didn't they go, oh, hang on, yeah, you're right, they shouldn't be owning the club either?
Yeah, that it is. Rob,
I can't believe I've done a absolute downer Keegan story in the midst. Like, right, we'll just do the Keegan stuff. That'll lift it up.
Yeah, we've still got plenty more. Don't worry. Don't turn off.
I've got another one.
We've still got loads more happy stuff to come, I promise. Rob, I'll come to you now. If you've got your favourite Keegan memory story, whatever you like.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit young to remember his first stint as manager. Obviously, got all the great memories, the 5-0s, the entertainers, but I was kind of similar age to Laura then, so I didn't really start going to football till I was 12, 13, 14 when my dad eventually took us. So my memories are a lot more either nostalgia through other people or kind of just that third coming, really. Obviously, you've got the stories that everyone knows about, convincing Rob Lee that Newcastle was closer to London than Middlesbrough to get him to sign and things like that. Obviously, we're so lucky Google Maps wasn't the thing then, because I might not find Rob Lee. But and then obviously I've heard ones where I think there was an episode in training his first time round when Cernacek roundhouse kicked Lee Clark in the face, and Kevin Keegan didn't punish him because it showed he cared. So things like that. But,
amazing.
But it's like what Adam was saying, my memories, I'll never forget that night. He was reappointed because I think we're playing an FA Cup replay at home, and when it was announced, I wasn't at the match. I was at a gig that night, and I remember coming out after, and town, everyone was just buzzing. You'd think we'd just won a cup. Everyone was packed in the pubs and was so cheery. And obviously, it was still in the Ashley era. We didn't really know what was to come, but I think that was when I first really appreciated how much Keegan meant to the club, just the atmosphere in town, just because he was back in the door. And it was then I really kind of appreciated what he meant to the club and supporters, because I didn't really remember much from his first stint. And obviously, he's much more appreciated now, and we really think highly of him because he still cares, and he's always out there speaking against Ashley, and he knows what the club could be and what it should be.
Yeah.
And what can you say? He's just a legend. He always will be.
I think I tweeted about it last week, and I was like, he just gets us, doesn't he? I was listening again to his interview with Shearer, and I've got to tell this story. I mean, dad will kill us about how when he was a player, was it 82, 83, 84, that sort of era. And the brewery apparently paid his wages. So he had to go around. He mentions it in his interview with Shearer about how he had to go to work in men's clubs. And my dad went to one in Ashington, and he was chosen to play head tennis with Keegan. Obviously, my last story included head tennis. Keegan loved head tennis. And so he had to go on stage and play head tennis with Keegan. I asked him who won, and he said, well, we both won because nobody dropped it, but I'm not too sure I believe that. But then, even just, he said, it was, back then the pubs closed at 10:30. And again, a bit similar to my story, he stayed to, my dad said, about midnight, just signing autographs and making sure he spoke to every fan. And I know Keegan said it in his interview about how those are the fans are the most important thing, and they pay their money, and they're the ones that are there supporting you. And he just gets it. Whereas you've got, no, actually, no, I'm not even going to say that because it's negative. I'm going to leave it. I was actually, go back.
Just on that point, one tiny little thing I always really liked about him was the Shearer interview, where they're talking the questions he's getting asked about. Oh, why is the club spend its money this, that, and the other? And he just turns around and he says, "It's a fan's money. It's not the club's money. Yeah. You've put this money into the club, so we want to get this for the fans."
Yeah, and didn't he come out on this? I can't remember at all, but just reading off Twitter and stuff, you might have it, Jess. Sorry if I've took over, but about when he sold Ashley Cole and he came out at St. James's Park, and who did I say?
Ashley.
Oh, sorry, Andy. Not Ashley Cole.
Let's correct that. Andy Cole.
And he had told the fans of why he sold him and stuff, and you wouldn't get that now at all, would you?
Absolutely not.
If he ever gets a statue, by the way, I think it should be on the stairs into the entrance.
Yeah.
There was. I mean, we had, as always, we had loads of people think. There was one. We had one from. I'm really sorry if I pronounce this wrong. It's Shevers or Shevers. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But they live in Stoke, and their favourite memory was playing Stoke in the cup when Keegan came back. And we won, and he had the bragging rights the next day, which I thought that was nice because that was quite a personal one. We had an account called Geordie Jumpers, whose favourite memory was his debut against QPR because he sat on his dad's shoulders and watched it all. Yeah, he watched it from the Gallowgate on his dad's shoulders, which I thought was absolutely brilliant as well. We had the one that Laura's just mentioned, explaining to the fans why they sold Andy Cole, coming out and just sticking his neck on the line and kind of holding his hands up, which, like we said, you wouldn't get now. We had the fact that he got an extra 15 minutes to convince Shearer to come home, and then he gave the speech at Shearer's unveiling as well. My favourite, well, not my favourite, obviously, but like Rob said, we're maybe a little bit too young to remember him being manager and stuff like that. I'm definitely too young to remember this because I wasn't a bloody twinkle in my dad's eye at this point. But in 1979, he released a song called "Head Over Heels," and it's
a banger as well. I
don't know.
Banger. It's I was listening to it before when I was making me notes and stuff, and I was like, what a bloody tune. The video is incredible. It's he's got his big perm going on, and it's like a Shan disco tune, really. And it's got the lights all. I'll share a link to it at some point. It's absolutely, that's my favorite.
It's a ripper, it's fantastic.
It's really, really good. And we had one so. What I will say is, we're also in the same tweet. We're also asked for things that which we're going to come on to straight after this. Things that you would give up for Lent in terms of Newcastle United, and there was one answer where I didn't know if they were answering to both or one or the other, but they are named after Keegan, and their response was people always saying, "Oh, like the footballer." So I didn't know if that was their favourite thing about him, or if that was something that they wanted people to give up for Lent because they were fed up with saying, "What's your name, Keegan?" "Oh, like the footballer." So I'm not sure, but that brings us on nicely. That's seamless. And what would you give up for Lent in terms of Newcastle United? We did say we don't want any players or managers because we don't want to be nasty and personal or what have you. But yes, Laura, Yeah, I did specify this. Laura, you've got to give up something for Lent in terms of Newcastle United or football.
Just one?
Well...
Got loads.
I forgot everything.
I always do this in case I like freeze and I've got nothing to say. I always write absolutely shitloads down.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll get one off all of yours, and then we'll come back into the middle, and we can it's a free for all. So, Laura, what's the main one that you would want to give up for Lent?
The main one is, and I'm guilty of it as well, but for 40 days, I would like to give up negativity about Newcastle United. And I know I'm really guilty of it myself. As soon as we're not very good or we lose a game, straight on Twitter. I think as well, we touched on this a couple of weeks ago, but I think it's because you can't go to the pub after and vent and rant. Yeah. So it just goes on, I'm sitting on my own, so it just goes on Twitter. But yeah, I would give up negativity. So if someone's shit, you've got to say, oh, that's so unlucky, Joelinton, try again the next time. So, you know, I'm really, like, I don't know how many people are going to watch this, but I was going to, like, start a petition. So, like, everyone on Twitter for 40 days has got to do that. So on Sunday, when we're playing Man United and we're really shit and negative, and Gail's on the right and Joelinton's, like, in defence and stuff like that, and we've got to just be totally positive about it and find the positive in every negative.
Charlie sees it on Twitter and gives Bruce a new contract. He thinks we're all so happy.
Well, no, all the negativity's not working, and I think they're trying to annoy you. So why don't we try reverse psychology? Like, that's my thought.
Adam, what would you give up for Lent?
Positivity, basically. No, I would absolutely. I'm stealing Chris's idea here, but I'd absolutely give up football Twitter for 40 days. Just. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's no slight. Anybody who wants to stick their opinions on Twitter, go for it. Like, we all need a hobby, but just genuinely going on, even after it's a victory, if it's after a defeat, after anything, just people winding themselves up and spending their spare time poring over possession stats. Go, we've only done 10 presses in the final third. Go outside, man. We're lost. It's fine. Like, you pulling up some magic number off your stats zone app isn't going to fix any of that. Like, Bruce doesn't follow you. He's not going to go. That's a good point. That actually, we should be attacking more down the left. Chris 046728 with a picture of the NUFC logo as his Avi. He's got a great point here.
No, but Alex might tell him, because Alex tells him everything.
Very true.
No, he doesn't. He better not. Mind you, if that's what I'm going to give up for Lent, there's a lot of actual journalists you need to give up Twitter for Lent as well while we're on it.
We'll not name them, but if you're watching, you know who you are.
Normal people winding themselves up after a match is one thing. People who are doing it in overtime when they should be getting paid during the rest of the day to do it is another thing. How they've got the energy for that.
Rob, what would you give up for Lent?
Oh, it's easy for me. Anything to do with the blooming takeover.
Oh, yeah.
you know what, right? No one said that. And no one said on Twitter, it didn't even cross my mind. But I would like to change my answer and join your team, because 100%.
Just literally everything that comes with it, whether it's like, the new American president now is a key card in the takeover of Newcastle United. You've got all these Twitter ITKs whose auntie's best friends win the cleaners, mates with someone in the Saudi royal family. Clickbait articles with nothing but rehashed information. Tweets in Arabic that mean we're going to get taken over. Pointless legal letters from random people.
The bread was the best one.
The bread.
And most importantly, out of everything, is personal attacks on individuals who have a different point of view and are using their own information and expertise, giving a balanced view and just disagree. Like, that's one thing that really is getting these days. And just anything to do with the takeover, anything you hear about the takeover now, it just leads to negativity, because if you actually do believe it, it's just false hope and you're like, when's it going to happen? But I'm just absolutely sick to death of it now, to be honest, all of it.
Liam Gallagher tweeted the other day that I think it was something like about, Reading and Leeds Music Festival. It was like, Reading and Leeds is going to happen this year, blah, blah, blah. And someone replied, what do you think of the Newcastle takeover? And I was like, what on like, where?
That makes sense, though. He's making bold, outlandish, baseless predictions about something he doesn't know anything about. They probably just thought he was an ITK account.
And if he'd said yes, there would have been a YouTube show on another channel.
It's absolutely mental. But Rob, I must say I'm with you. There is some. I would give up the hangovers that come with supporting Newcastle United, whether
emotional or off the drink.
whether we've lost and I'm drowning my sorrows, or we've won and I'm celebrating, or I'm celebrating getting through another 90 minutes of Newcastle United. The hangovers are absolutely brutal. They're worse than normal hangovers for some reason. I don't know.
Mate. Like, it's not football. It just catches up with you eventually.
Adam has left the stream.
I get you.
But yes, I would give up the hangovers, but I would now also like to say that I would give up the takeover talk, because I think that Liam Gallagher one was just it's been ridiculous for a long time, but that was just absolutely out. Like loads of people like screenshotted it and shared it, just being like, what is wrong with our fans? Like, how do you even how does that cross your mind when you see a musician from Manchester tweeting about a festival in Leeds and Reading?
That's not just us, mind. I cannot remember the name of the journalist, but it was somebody who covers Liverpool, and he just tweeted that his wife had given birth. He was like, "Oh, I just want to share everybody. So proud of my wife. She's been amazing." All this, and someone went, "Any news on the Suarez injury?" And he just replied with, "Bit busy, mate."
I remember that. That was a good one.
I mean, it must. I mean, I do just assume that it's just us, but like obviously we don't see the other. We don't see like Liverpool Twitter and Man United.
Oh, you think we're bad for like monitoring flights and stuff? Like Arsenal Twitter pretty much have their own radar tower.
I could imagine them.
Yeah, I can well imagine. Right, let's have a quick look ahead. We're not looking forward. Sounds like we're looking forward to it, looking positive. So let's look ahead to Man United on Sunday.
We've all just given up negativity for 4 days, so I'm actually quite looking forward to this.
Well, I've got the game on now, and I've just had a glance over, and it's currently 3-0 to Man United. But
sounds like they're wearing themselves out to me.
Well, there you go. They might be tired by Sunday. They did draw 1-1 with West Brom in their last game, the last Premier League game, which, whilst is not a good result for us in terms of the league, is a good result in terms of they might have lost a bit of confidence or what have you. Who knows? Laura, how are you feeling about the game? Obviously, we know we've got several injuries. We know that Jeff Hendrick's coming back. How are we feeling?
Really positive. Think we're going to win. Think we're going to play Gale up front, and he's going to be in the box, and Maximum's going to not beat loads of players and cross it. And yeah, I think we're going to win 3-0.
You can tell Lent's kicked in for you. Adam, how are you feeling about the game on Sunday?
Well, like every single man who supports Newcastle United on Valentine's Day, I did see those 3 words that everybody fears: Jeff Hendrick returns. So I'm not massively optimistic. This is the thing, right? The way they're playing at the minute, both them and us, it wouldn't surprise me at all if this was some absolute turgid 1-1 where, we'll get to take a lot of positives from it at the end of the game.
Yes, yeah.
But honestly, I just don't know with us at the minute. Like, we're all absolutely convinced we're going to get rolled over by Everton, and we played really well. We're convinced everything was going to go like tits up once we didn't put Southampton away in that first half. And we're convinced we're going to absolutely batter Crystal Palace. We just don't know at the minute with anything. Like, we thought we'd probably get beat off Chelsea, but we'd have a bit of fight about it, and we didn't. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they rock up and they've got a bit of attitude about it. And, we're going to have, over a week between our last game? Was Man United going to be coming off the back of the Europa League game? We know, we've been there. Statistically, you don't play well on the weekend games after you've just got back from Europe. So, I don't know. I just don't know. 1-1.
1-1. Oh, very interesting. Rob, what are you thinking?
Oh man, I don't want to upset Laura, but I'm going. Well, I mean, I don't really think it's a negative point of view, because really, I think in my heart of hearts, we're all expecting to lose, a bit like Chelsea, but it was
realistic. You're being realistic.
Yeah. So I mean, in my head, I'm just thinking like a kind of very straightforward 2-0 for Man U, and to be honest, I expect it, and again, going back to Fulham in the table, it's that tight. Don't get a hammering. You know what I mean? Don't let your goal difference get a battering. Don't let your confidence get a battering. You don't want to go into next week having lost 5-0. But as Adam says, you never know. Something could happen. But I personally don't see anything other than straightforward Man U win
So you're saying 2-0, 2-0 Man United.
Yes, I am.
Laura,
I mean, what were bases covered here? We've got a win, a loss, and a draw, so we're fine for the clip.
What score do you think, Laura?
3-0 us.
3. Shut.
I mean, I would love Laura to be right. I would love it.
I know. I
would love it if we beat them. I'm gonna say I can't see us scoring. So I'm gonna. They've just gone 4-0 up.
They're gonna be exhausted from all that celebrating.
I think Marino can't be playing if that's the score.
I've just said that I'm gonna that I can't see us scoring, but I've just seen them go 4-0 up. I'm gonna say that they're gonna be absolutely knackered. I'm gonna say we're gonna win 2-1.
There we go.
Let's see. Right, let's end on it. That was quite a positive note, but let's end on an even more positive note. It's Thursday today. The godfather of Newcastle United, Bobby Robson, it's his birthday today. So we thought we'd end with, we'll just quickly go around and do our favourite quotes or stories or things about him. He was just the most brilliant, wonderful, amazing person ever, and we love him, and we just wanted to pay a little tribute to him. So Laura, what have you got?
I love the story of because I think he played the press quite a bit and made himself look a bit daft and everybody's granddad, but I think he was very, very clever. Obviously, he had such, and I loved when Amiobi did that interview and he said he's got no nicknames, and they said, well, what does Bobby Robson call you? And he said, Carl Court.
Love that.
That is absolutely iconic. Adam, what's your favourite Bobby Robson? Sir Bobby Robson, sorry.
He came to my college prom.
Wow.
We were in we had our prom in the assembly rooms in town, and the room next to us, he was doing after dinner speaking, and a couple of lads went out for a tab, and he was like waving somebody into a taxi, and we're like, Robson. So every single lad and about half the lasses piled out into the street. And he was literally waiting for his lift to go, and he stood and, like, same with the Keegan story, he just spoke to everybody who wanted to talk to him. It must have honestly been over an hour outside. The teachers were trying to get us to go because they needed to get out of the room and get it tidied up. And I just stood around for about an hour, talked to everybody. He'd not long been let go as well. It was about 2 or 3 years after he'd been given the old elbow, and he was just talking about, like, oh, you've all got your futures ahead of you. There's nothing you can't do. Like, just like look at what all, like, if you think all your footballers are all famous and they've achieved stuff, like, yes, they had ability, but they worked really hard as well. And if you do that, you do whatever it is you want to do. He was asking people what they wanted to do, what they were going to go do at university, if they wanted to go do a trade. Like, honestly, he took an interest in every single person. It was just. It was just one of those, like, we're all far too pissed as well, like, because we've been on it for about 5 or 6 hours, and, like, it's just what a ball.
That is exactly why I did this for, something like that. That's absolutely lush. I love that. Rob, what's your favourite?
Well, it was actually a lad that I used to work with when Sir Bobby Robson was actually doing a book signing in Newcastle, and this lad I used to work with rocked up, and he was in the queue for, he was saying, like, a good 2 hours. And then when he eventually got to the front of the queue, he was making small talk with Sir Bobby while he was, like, had his head in the book signing it. And he was just like, you signed many books today, Sir Bobby? And he was like, hundreds, son, I've signed hundreds. And he walked away and he left the shop and he looked in the inside of his cover. And obviously he'd just got into Bobby's head and actually said in the book, best wishes, Bobby hundreds. So he's one opportunity to get his book signed. He's got in his head and he's went and wrote Bobby hundreds. And now
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Absolutely. Oh my God.
But just want to mention as well, obviously, I think the one memory that'll just stick with us forever, and it probably will most people, was pretty much the last time we kind of really saw him in public, when he was at that charity match. You know, he was in a wheelchair, and he probably wasn't looking as well as we'd all hope. But when everyone was just chanting his name and he was going up and down the line, shaking everyone's hand, like, that image will just stay with us forever. Like, what a bloke, what a legend. Just love him. Absolutely.
That's mine as well. I was at the game. I took my little cousin to the game, and I don't know if it's in a film about, like, Gaza or whatever, but his son gets interviewed and he's talking about how, like, obviously his dad was really poorly and, like, you could see that he wasn't well and stuff, and because obviously this was only like 5 days before he passed away, and I don't think he didn't really know where he was and stuff, But after the game, they're like, "Did you enjoy that, Dad?" And he was like, "I did. How did Gaza play?" And all he wanted to know was how Gaza played. And I just thought that was just the most lovely thing. And what a lovely note to end it on as well, because I mean, it doesn't get much better than Sir Bobby, does it really? You've got our predictions for Sunday night. We'll be back again next week to see if we're right. Hopefully,
well, one of us will be. One of us will have got it right.
One of us will be. I'm hoping it's me and Laura.
Yeah.
I'm not bothered which score it is, but I'm hoping it's me and Laura. Ever the optimists, obviously. Thank you so much to our wonderful guests, to Rob, to Adam. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes,
Thank you for having us.
To Laura, my wonderful co-host as ever, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
This has been ExtraTyne on the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.